Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth DuPre. I'm here as part of the OHBM Communications Committee, and today I'm really delighted to be able to talk to the current leadership of the OHBM Open Science Special Interest Group and learn a little bit more about what their plans are for this year. So first, I'm so happy, Aki Nikolaidis, you're chair currently of the Open Science SIG. Could you tell us a little bit, just kind of introduce us to the team, everyone on the call, and let's hear about what you've been up to.
Absolutely. Thanks, Elizabeth. Yeah, so we have a great group of people working really hard this year to provide all of the content and events that we're going to be doing at OHBM. And today we're going to cover a couple of the major efforts that we are going to be doing at OHBM this year. So I'm just going to introduce some of the people who are sort of leading those efforts. So first we have the co-chairs of the Brainhack, which is happening June 16th through 18th before OHBM. And Matteo Mancini and Tibor Oyer are joining us both in different places in the UK. They're the co-chairs of the Brainhack this year. And then Gabriel Gonzalez Escamilla and Eva Alonso Ortiz are the co-chairs of the Open Science room this year. And Johanna Bayer is also joining us, who is the secretary-elect for next year and has been super instrumental in making sure that both of these teams feel supported in all the different activities that they have planned. We have a really exciting set of things that we're going to be bringing to OHBM this year. And we're really happy to get the chance to do it.
No, I mean, I'm a longtime fan of the Open Science Room and the Brainhack, so I'm very excited. It's one of my absolute favorite parts of the conference. And I really, really do want to hear everything that you've been planning for it. But first, I just have a very general question. So I keep up with the Open Science SIG. I'm always delighted to hear about it. And I've been hearing a lot about stuff you've been doing even before the conference, these new Open Science Fellowships. Can you tell me a little bit about this idea, kind of how it came about, maybe what the fellowships really involve, or this new class of fellows and what their work touches on right now, even before the conference?
Definitely, yeah. So I'll like talk a little bit about it and hand it off to you, Matteo, to sort of talk about stuff as well. So the fellows kind of came about as from this perspective that we wanted to be able to sort of recognize people in the community that were early career researchers who were committed to open science and had been making contributions to open science in a variety of different ways. And the idea was that we could have this opportunity to sort of give these basically like awards, like monetary awards to people who have been, making contributions in many different types of ways, from community building to tool development to, open, publishing and things like that, and all these different elements, and then bringing them into the Open Science SIG as fellows to have them help us basically as teaching assistants during the Brainhack. So we wanted early career researchers who had experience and who themselves were knowledgeable about the different topics that we were going to be teaching in the Brainhack during the train track, and sort of they're going to be serving basically as paid TAs. So there's a lot of volunteer work that happens during the OHBM, all the Open Science SIG events that we have, but we wanted to be able to maybe even give back to some of the people for the work that they're doing. Yeah, and Matteo, I probably covered most of the points. I'm sorry about that. Is there anything else that I should mention? I know that you've got other stuff to say.
No, I think that for the fellows, you covered everything, and it's something that I really look forward to see how it turns out.
Yeah, we wanted to use it also as like another way to address like diversity and inclusivity, to make sure, like historically, the open science community has been predominantly white, predominantly North American and European, and we wanted to have an opportunity to branch out from what we might typically see in the OS-SIG. Yeah, DuPre, you have a point.
Yes, I'd just like to add that we had a really great list of applicants for the fellowships, and it was really exciting, encouraging, and inspiring to see all these things these people have done despite their juniority in their things, and really some of them was even fitting for a professor, I would say. So it was really good to see them, and it was really hard choice sometimes to decide between them.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely true. The fellows this year are really superstars. I'm really impressed. We're all very impressed by them.
I mean, I think it just speaks to like the depth and the richness of the open science community at OHBM, which has been cultivated through these efforts over time. And it's so lovely. So this is the first year with the fellowships, correct?
That's right. Yeah. It was initially like envisioned by last year's SIG. Camille was sort of like spearheading it. And so we put it into practice this year.
No, that's awesome. Because I think exactly like you said, like I think having these support structures to be able to allow people to participate who otherwise may have been kept out, like that's going to be so wonderful, I think, for the community over the next few years to kind of see where it goes.
Yeah.
Okay, but you talked about Brainhack, so I have to talk about Brainhack because it's wonderful and it's coming up so soon. So it sounds like, as you mentioned, we'll have this brand new class of Open Science Fellows who will be serving as paid TAs, which already sounds like a pretty exciting innovation on what we've seen before. Maybe just in general then, could you tell me a little bit about what this year's hackathon will look like in our all virtual, all online space? What are you expecting to see at this year's Brainhack?
Well, I'll just pass it off to Matteo and Tibor because I've talked a lot and they have a lot to say about it. So go ahead, guys.
Yeah, so I think that last year the event was already an incredible success, especially given the hard work of all the volunteers and especially the co-chairs Lisa and Remy. And I think that what we tried today was to actually expand on this work to see where we can go from there. And we want to engage, try to engage people in also a non-coding way. We will be trying to do that during the train track. And we want to have a conversation about the fact that historically and unfortunately, the audience of Brainhack tends to be white, straight male, and we don't want that because we actually enjoy to be in a diverse community. So we will have an actual session dedicated to try to understand what we can do there to be better all together. And also we will try to make people able to engage in their projects during the hack track, in having also a bit more resources, as we will say in a bit.
So yeah, that sounds awesome. So okay, so you're going to have this event. You're going to have more of an explicit focus, I think is really exciting, kind of on like the community and how we can help build it there. But there are, of course, these various pieces, right? So you've mentioned that you want the train track to be a place to help people who may not be as focused on coding or as interested in coding to get more involved. What will the train track really look like? So I know this year the OHBM conference itself is going to be on the Sparkle platform. How will the train track, and then maybe we can talk about the hack track after, how will it be adapted to these virtual spaces? Will it also be on Sparkle? How will participants access it?
So we are working with Sparkle to try to have the whole hackathon there, and we will see how it will turn out. But that's the goal, to actually have a centralized place for the whole event. And for the train track, I guess that this year we kind of got inspired by cakes, in the sense that a good cake needs to have multiple layers. So this year's train track will have multiple layers, and the first one, that is for everyone who may be suffering for problem with the good internet connection or things like that, we will prepare some videos that will be made available before the event, and the people can watch those, and they will cover the usual suspects. So version control, data visualization and machine learning, reproducible workflows, and also community building. That will be the new part, that it's the non-coding one. And I said that we will prepare, but actually this will be a community effort, because we think that in basically the last year, we had so many events that went basically virtual, and they recorded so many wonderful sessions that we want to really leverage those. I talk about 3 layers briefly. The other 2 will be one, a live Q&A session where we will have some co-hosts that we will be able to take questions from the audience, engage them in an overall discussion, and also bring up anyone who wants to be on stage and ask a question or answer a very difficult one. And the last layer is the one that connects the hackathon with the OS fellows. So these fellows will actually lead their own sessions. This will be a small group session that will be repeated through the days of the hackathon, and people will actually be able to solve problems with the tools that they want to learn about. And this is explicitly inspired from the Neuromatch model and the Neuromatch Academy experience. And I think that what these people achieved last year was wonderful, and I hope that this kind of model can be a further inspiration for anyone else for this kind of events.
If I can add on that, I think it's also important to mention that these 3 topics Matteo mentioned, they also came from kind of a community effort. So last year there was a survey about what people need training the most, which are topics they interest the most, and these 3 topics came out like the first 3. So it's really kind of a response to the community need.
No, I love that. I mean, it sounds really exciting. I do have to say that I am wondering if the cake inspiration, I'm noticing both the co-chairs are from the UK. So maybe there's like a Great British Bake Off kind of inspiration sneaking in there. I don't know, but it sounds,
I know, Elizabeth, that you are a big fan of it, but I'm not. I'm Italian, and unfortunately, I don't believe in the UK cuisine. So no, it's actually an idea that came to me like at the last minute.
It meshes together. The Great British Bake Off is all about positive community, and that's what it sounds like I'm really hearing is going to come from this event.
Yeah, I think that's also kind of interesting that both of us are in the UK, but none of us is actually British. So
I love it. I love it. Yes. Okay. So sorry. GBBO aside, wonderful. But I'm really excited about kind of the description that you're giving here. Like this sounds like a really, really well thought out event to kind of allow people to engage at multiple levels with all of the activities that you're putting on. And so what about the hack track? So how will it look if participants want to work together on different sides of the globe on a similar project? What are you envisioning that will look like?
So the hack track is yes, it's also the second main ingredient to the hackathon cake, if I can say so. And it's one of the most creative part of, I think, any kind of conference, and a great show for all the geekness, what some of the neuroimagings may have. And thanks to this virtualization or virtual event, I think the collaboration became even more easier. So we learned from last year's model with the different time zones. With a bit simplification, we came up with 2 time zones, and Matteo came up with the nice descriptive names, called them Atlantis for Europe and America, and the rising sun, which for Australia and Asia. And these kind of time zones are there to make sure that everyone can join and collaborate and work on projects, even if they are from a different part. I mean, even one project doesn't have to stick to one particular time zone, because people from Australia can work on one particular project. They go to sleep, and people in Africa or Europe can start working on it on own. So yes, I think it's digital. I'm a huge fan of the digitalization and collaborative working. And we really do hope that this can happen on the Sparkle platform, which would be a great thing to have this kind of uniform experience and put all these together. But even if not, we still have some plans to use other tools like Broadcast and of course the actual work is probably happening through GitHub or other platforms which helps you to work collaboratively.
No, I love it. I don't know how we're going to make this cake metaphor still work, but I'm into it. We'll have to get the OSR in there. It's all the open science cake at OHBM. But no, okay, so that sounds really, really delightful. And I agree. I think that like all of these, every year I kind of see the hackathon projects come out and I'm like, this is amazing. How did this happen? So I'm so looking forward to see what people put together this year and just have fun with it. And maybe a question there is like, now that OHBM actually has its own publishing platform, which is Aperture, you know, it's been not necessarily difficult, but it's been sort of unclear how to get a lot of the work recognized that happens at the hackathon. Do you have any plans for maybe some sort of hackathon proceedings or a partnership with Aperture or thinking about that for this year?
Yes, Aperture is a great initiative and a great addition to the kind of more traditional publication forms, and it's and also to acknowledge the great heterogeneity of the research. It is not just about writing papers, but also providing tools or snippets or ideas. So it's a great thing. It's still relatively new, and as you said, Elizabeth, it's a little bit unclear. So we're also not entirely sure how we then can connect to it, but we are definitely in touch with the Aperture team regarding the proceeding, and more details are coming. And so yeah, as I said, the main idea would be that the projects of the hackathon could then contribute with their results to this initiative.
So the hackathon proceedings would be like a citable document with all of the authors who attended the hackathon on it, and it would kind of like sum up all of the different projects that were happening. And we have some ideas of specifically what the requirements are for submission, but those haven't been exactly finalized. But people at the hackathon, or in the weeks after the hackathon, will be able to submit their projects for publication. It won't be like a full length, sort of manuscript. It's each of them will be like short, sort of summarizing like what they did, what they tried to do, what they, the results that they found, etc.
And I will add the very last thing for the hackathon part. So if this whole OHBM this year is a giant cake, I guess it's kind of a multi-tower cake, and the icing on the hackathon cake is that we are in touch with Qmenta to actually provide a platform for anyone who's interested in the hack track, that wants to have a project that can run on their resources, or if they want to organize a multi-group challenge that can develop after the hackathon. For all of these kinds of projects, where Qmenta will provide their resources. And I think it's really great, because sometimes one dreams too big and then they actually don't have the resource, and then they start to resize. This time we want to give the chance to people to dream big and to actually go for it.
Oh, I love it. I mean, it sounds like everything is dreaming big, right? Like this, and it's going to happen. Like you have the plans to make it all happen, which is really, really exciting. So I'm really delighted. I'm looking forward so much to this year's Brainhack. But of course, Open Science doesn't stop at the Brainhack, right? It goes into the main event with the Open Science Room. And so I'd just love to hear a little bit about what what is this Open Science Room, this year's Open Science Room going to really look like? How are you going to adapt to Virtual Conference 2021? Will we see you on Sparkle?
Yes, I think now I start talking a little bit on my part. So that was a really great challenge for us, for Eva and for me, because I mean, all years have been very, very, very good for the OSR. And every year it's like more people get involved and the program itself like growing. So it's a very, very nice kind of evolution of the OSR to get into the current platform. And it's because we are going to be more integrated into the main OHBM this year. So we will be really part of a program. And the first part that, in which we can say that is with the panel discussions. We will have some 5 specific topics, which include future of open tools and technologies, building a career in the age of open science, saving time and resources, open science and sustainability, challenges in the open science, and ensuring that open science is accessible. And these 5 panels will be broadcasted at the same time as the roundtables for the OHBM. So we will be really like fully integrated into the program. That's one of kind of the first main steps for this year's OSR. But it doesn't stop there. We have also educational sessions, 10 of them, and they are all spanning from the beginner level to introduce main ideas and motivate new investigators to open science and how to deal with failures that we currently have. And the third type of sessions we will be hosting are the Emergence Sessions. These are kind of more free in format, meaning that we don't have like a specific duration for them. And we are very open for the people during the OHBM to be applying to be hosting their own sessions, so they are free to speak about the topics they want. Of course, it will be for us important that they are related to open science and also to other aspects like diversity, accessibility. So that will be for us kind of a target for it, but they are kind of free on the topics. And the fourth thing that is going to be happening in the OSR is that we will be hosting BITS Town Hall, which is basically including all related to BITS. So the main heads on the BITS will be talking about what is it, how can we use it, and so on.
Well, okay, that's a lot of content, which is great. Okay, so I have a couple of questions. One, I mean, this is always a challenge, right? Like thinking back to all the times I've spent in the OSR, it's always sort of like this space that is both within the conference, but also kind of has its own vibe. I don't know what the word I want to use is, but it's got its own kind of sense. And so if you're now really closely integrating with the conference, I think that's wonderful, because that's always one thing where it's so difficult to know, like, oh, you know, what is happening, what is going on at this time. And so if you're really integrated in the conference, it makes it so much easier for people to come and engage. So I'm super excited about that. But I am really curious too about how you're going to balance that with this idea of kind of keeping its own feel in the OSR. And I imagine that like emergent discussions, let's say, are a reasonable part of that. So if I end up wanting to have an emergent discussion, what would that look like? How would I go about creating one?
That's a very good question. Actually, a very interesting one also for the attendees themselves, because as I said, it's kind of a free, so you are able to say that I'm want to speak about this specific topic and I want to do it on my own. So then I just said, we have our application form in the website, but of course, they can also reach us via email and tell us, I want to just be speaking about this topic. I want to do it myself, or I have a panel of speakers that want to do it with me. And our task will be just like to offer the space for them to host this session. So in this sense, it's like not really an OSR session, so to say, but it's like an individual session from them. We are just in charge of providing them the space. That will be for the emergence sessions, yes.
No, I love it. And so if someone were a bit better than me and better at planning, and they wanted to submit for, say, a panel discussion at the OSR, what would that look like? Do you have a mechanism that folks should be using there?
Yes, for the panel discussions and the educationals, we did it a little bit more closed in the sense that we proposed the topics for the panel discussions, and we just opened the application form in the website, which is currently now closed. We received a good amount of applications, so the panels, we have to choose which panelists will be really presenting or will be present on them. But at the end, it was, so we presented the topics to the attendees, and they decided who wants to come to present. So we try to make a balancing in between what we can control in the organizatory part and to give the freedom for the people to say, hey, but I want to participate. I want to be part of the OSR this year. Yes.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think that sounds really great. Aki, did you want to add something here?
Yeah, I just wanted to, let me lower my hand. I wanted to sort of like talk about panels and the emergence sessions. So the emergence sessions, I don't know if like you went to this a few years ago, but like Dan Lurie organized this like group discussion where people could kind of we all gathered in a room together and everyone was talking about a specific topic, and he was kind of playing MC. And so that's kind of like what we are thinking about. Well, the emergence session could be something like that, where people can gather together to discuss certain things. Say, for example, like problems in, transitioning from academia to industry or whatever. It doesn't, necessarily need to be anything that we decide. So we left that really open. But then the panels, on the other hand, we had actually specific topics we wanted to cover because based on surveys we did last year, those are some of the most those are some of the topics that people were really interested in. And also we felt like we wanted to move the open science room a little bit away from just being about coding to being more towards community building, inclusivity, diversity, and those kinds of things. So we wanted to address those topics as well. Yeah, that's all I wanted to pitch in.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that really nicely complements, Gabrielle, what you were telling me, what you and Eva have been thinking about, which is like exactly this of having these slightly different formats and having kind of a bit more structure in the panels, which makes sense because now you're part of the OHBM program, right? It's like it's a conference. It has a plan sometimes, but also having this kind of space for these more emergent discussions that exactly go back to yeah, I remember Dan's session, and there have been many others over the years, which have been, I think, similarly really exciting to be a part of. So I'm looking forward to that tradition continuing. And one other thing you mentioned, which I just wanted a bit more clarity on, was the BIDS town halls. So you were saying that this will be a space where kind of the BEP leads can talk about what's happening with BIDS. So maybe for folks who, just to kind of orient folks, so the brain imaging data structure is this community-driven standard that's been developing in the field, and there are all these different extension proposals. But the extension proposals are active. That's what you're saying, Gabrielle, right? And so is this a space to learn more about them, to contribute to, I guess, what's the goal here?
Well, I think the main goal of it is like to bring the bits as a real part of the brain mapping organization. So as you said, it is a growing thing. So you have more and more involvement of further modalities, for example. So now it's the EEG was recently out, and now they're working on the PET bits format. So I think it's gonna be like a good opportunity to have an overview of the current status of it, the current developments, so the additions, and what I should add is that basically this town hall will be driven by the WIT steering committee, which means that they will basically control whatever they decide to happen also from their presentations. And they will be discussing also among themselves. So there's kind of the OSR are a little bit out of it. So it's like their town hall, and they will be presenting them. But of course, all attendees are able to join or are invited to join and hear about what they want to say.
Nice. No, I think that's a great platform because yeah, BIDS is such a huge, I know it's a huge part of my workflow. I think it's a huge part of many people's workflows. So it's nice to be able to have that space for it. And then Aki, did you want to add something as well?
Yeah, it was something actually that applies to kind of all of our activities this year, is that you don't have to be attending OHBM to come to the Brainhack. You don't have to be an OHBM member. You know, and all of the OSR activities that we're going to be doing are going to be open to the public. You know, so if you're just like online and you're interested and want to learn or contribute or whatever, you can just come. So it's not like even though we are nested into OHBM, the Open Science SIG and all of our activities is like as open and inclusive as we are possibly trying to make it. The hackathon fee is $25, but if you can't pay for any reason, or you come from a low income or middle income country, basically just, you know, either give you like a reduction or just waive the fee completely. So we want to make sure that we are getting as many people from, you know, the Middle East and Africa and Asia and South America, and places that we don't typically see as many hackathon attendees and OSR attendees as possible. So that's a really important thing that I wanted to mention.
No, absolutely. And I think, okay, so maybe on a general note as well, for both the hackathon and the OSR and everything in general, how can we get involved? What is at this point, so it sounds like the goal is to cast as wide a net as possible. I imagine there's lots of work to do. If people want to volunteer and join in, what can they do at this point?
They can reach out to us in a lot of different ways. They can go to our website. If you just look up like OHBM Open Science SIG, you'll find us, and you can email us at ohbmopenscience@gmail.com. That's the right email, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, and we're looking for volunteers to help run the hackathon, to help run the Open Science Room. It's not like, it's more like we need people who are going to be online at specific times because of the nature of the conference. It's not like an 8-hour window, right? It's running in a different schedule. So we need people in different countries to be joining us to help us run these different events. You can reach out to us on Twitter. Definitely, you know, email is great. And we have people who are going to be coordinating volunteers as well. We always need help with website type stuff. We're going to be doing our best to dynamically be changing the website as things are changing. you know, updating things on Sparkle and our website as things continue to change. So yeah. Oh, also on Mattermost, you can reach out to us on Mattermost as well, the Brainhack Mattermost. Did I miss anything? You guys should probably pitch in on that too. You probably have some ideas.
I wanted to add, we specifically need people from the Asia Pacific hub or from Sunrise. That would be great if anyone from the audience feels like inspired to join.
Also, on the website currently, we have a link that directly goes to the volunteer form. And on the volunteer form, you have also a link for the actual description of the roles. We are completely transparent here in the sense that we put the actual working document that we had from, I think, several years of what each role does. So it's a real description of what you will be doing. And we really look forward for people weighing in.
Then I also have to say for the OSR, of course, we made ourselves this great work on habilitating these emergence sessions, and we need volunteers for being monitoring the sessions that we are hosting, all in general, but also specifically on the emergence sessions. And also within the sessions, we need volunteers that are in charge of monitoring the chats. So for the people that are not in the main, so in Sparkle, in the main platform, that they can also get notice to the speakers. And then I must say, of course, we have this volunteering from the main OSR website, but on the OSR website, we have also the registration tab when we ask whether people want to volunteer to us. So both options are possible for us.
No, I love it. This sounds great. And we'll try and make these resources very explicitly available, but it sounds like you've already done a ton of work in making that easy to navigate. And it sounds like a really great opportunity to get involved and be part of kind of all of this cake baking generally. I don't know. We're doing some kind of baking.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's gonna be tasty.
It's gonna work
sure.
out. Yes. Okay, I'm looking at the time, and I know you are all very busy people with all the crazy things you've been doing and getting set up, and I'm so looking forward to it. But are there any kind of last minute things we've missed that you really want people to know about before we wrap up?
I would say if you are new to Open Science, actually volunteering with the Open Science SIG is probably like one of the best ways to start getting a feel for Open Science and to start feeling like you're part of the community. You basically get like welcomed right in immediately, and you know, you get to feel like, oh, like I'm contributing. You know, it's not even like, oh, I have to learn Git and version control and Circle CI or whatever before I can, you know, sort of participate. No, like we can, you already know what what you need to know to get involved. You know, so come and join. And also we're looking for, I should also mention that we have some positions open for next year as well. That's like a really key thing. So all of our jobs, we have like a kind of a cycle, right? So we're going to have 2 people who are going to lead the hackathon next year and 2 people who are going to lead the Open Science Room next year. And then for the treasurer, secretary, and chair elect positions, we're also looking for people to fill those roles. And then we have a couple new positions this year: an inclusivity officer and a volunteer coordinator. And both of those positions we're looking for people to fill as well. And the volunteer coordinator is kind of like an important job because there's so many people who come in to help that we need people who kind of have an overview of like HR kind of the whole effort. And then the inclusivity officer works all year on different efforts that the Open Science SIG can make specifically on addressing roadblocks or other sort of things that we put in our own way from making sure that we're reaching communities that are typically underrepresented in the Open Science group. So yeah, if those things sound exciting to you, you know, and you want to get involved, please come. It's, you know, it is I would say maybe like for most of the year, it's like an hour or two a week commitment. But then as like OHBM starts to come up, it becomes more of a commitment, a few hours a week or more, depending on which job you're in specifically. And if that sounds maybe that sounds too much, there's always other ways to get involved, from, Open Science Fellows, or just these volunteer roles in coordinating things on site when it's actual, when OHBM is actually happening.
Oh, I love it. And so it sounds like going to the Brainhack and the Open Science Room, that's the place to really hear more about this and to think about next steps to get involved. And of course, volunteering beforehand to get to know folks. Yeah. And Joanna, did you want to add something as well?
Yeah, so it might be a good point now to point to our latest publication. Like it's about Brainhack. So if anyone is not familiar to the topic, we've just published about what the Brainhack is and like about the idea behind it in Neuron. And like anyone who wants to know more and maybe wants to look it up before they volunteer, yeah, they should have a look at it. It's a relatively short piece. It's just a neuro view, but yeah.
No, I love it. It's good to know kind of what's happening. And that's a nice way too, just to get to know kind of, obviously, I think today's discussion has helped a lot to get to know kind of the community and what's happening, but to get to know the vision a little bit too. I think that piece is really, really lovely for that.
I do want to just say that to get an idea of that vision, the Open Science SIG continues to kind of grow in its role at OHBM. So every year, the Open Science SIG is kind of taking on more, they're given more responsibilities, more opportunities, et cetera. Like the council, exec, and program, they've all been incredibly supportive of open science this year and in the past few years. So there is a kind of sense of, open science is having a bit of a moment, I think, in the OHBM community.
I hope so. I would agree. I think that you all are leading the charge for what's next, and I'm so excited to see what it will be. Okay, so I think I'll wrap up our conversation here, but thank you all so much for taking the time. This has been really delightful. And I know that and I'm sure many other people are really looking forward to all of the open science events at and around the OHBM conference. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Elizabeth.